see on the streets and what I see on the trains, and I learn
from that. If I'm pretending I'm talking on a telephone and writing on a phone booth, like 3 blocks later I'm in a gallery painting, it's exactly the same thing to me. I think it all references each other and influences each other.
I didn't work. I only made art for a lot of years. I really starved sometimes. It's on apples and stuff.
I like that it's kind of mindless, but it's not, because you never can draw the same thing over and over again. I like thinking about the fact that somebody will think that is burnt to do that. Like, that's all that he does, because it's not all I do. But I like the idea that somebody thinks that that's all that he does. What a burnout artist. That's such bullshit. And then I'm all, yeah. And then, just be all, yeah. This is so non-growth, over and over again. I like that. To be professional artist or whatever is a weird thing to say and to, I guess, be. I just have no illusions. The world is, this is it's all nothing. You know what I mean? It's like all such nothing. Like money's funny money. Like popularity, it just goes, You look at bands, it's like, this band is so popular, they're awesome. And then like 2 weeks later, the kids, or like a year and a half later, the kids hate that. They hate it. They rebel against it. They hate it. They think you just are shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're off the streets finally. They're in the gallery. Finally. I'm doing canvases and making a living like it's controlled, and there's something about that I do have problems with. That mentality is a little bit off to me. I'm not so fond of that idea. And I'm always wary about how I sit in the eye of like a 12 or 13-year-old kid. Like, what do they think of what I've done and whatnot? So I'm super wary of like how I fit in that whole scheme of things.
I think there's an attitude difference between what's done inside and what's done outside. As an artist, you want to be able to sell your work, and you want to be able to live off your work, and that world that involves the art buying and selling is a very closed world, and sometimes you forget about the other world around you. Any day in the Mission in San Francisco, you can see a hand-painted sign that is kind of funky, and maybe that person, if they had money, they would prefer to have a neon sign. But I don't prefer that. I think it's beautiful what they did, and that they did it themselves. And doing community art sort of keeps you in touch with where you're from, where I'm from.
By this point, quite a few of the artists had gained some pretty significant success in the mainstream world, and there were a lot of fans there, even if it wasn't all in the art world. There were a lot of young fans, and you'd show up to an art opening, and there would be huge art collectors there, and museum curators, and there were reviews in the New York Times and magazine covers, and it definitely wasn't just for kids anymore.
I started doing shows, funding the entire thing myself, all out of my own pocket. And then you get offered bigger shows at bigger places, let's say a museum, and you get kind of pampered. I mean, they fly you out, and they ship the art on their dime, and they put you in a hotel on their dime, and they take you out to dinners, and they, if you say you want the place painted, it's painted when you get there.
It's so clear, you look at it just like it's breathing, it's living, it's got a pulse, and it's fresh and it's new, and it's not a gimmick, it's not a fucking phase, it's not a fad. For it to grow up and be large, it's going to need many, many, many more people to kind of feed the organism and make it grow.
It's what I do as a living now. And it's like a period of time going into a space and just given like, okay, you have a month, here's the space, do it. And if I'm not told what to do or told that it has to fit with the theme of the building or whatnot, if that's not there and whatnot, it's a great opportunity for sure. They pretty much let me run around wild and free for like a month, and then I stop, and that's it.
There's ways to be the Beatles, to have the smartest guy in the room and the dumbest guy in the room digging what you're doing, and to have it affect people on multiple levels. I mean, it's not easy, but I think, to aspire to that is noble. There's no difference between commercial art and fine art in terms of aesthetics. It's just intent. Freedom of the press is guaranteed to those who own one. You can make something seem a lot bigger than it really is. When people see it out under a sticker, they're wondering what it is, and then they ask someone else, and it gains power from perceived power. I'm so into propaganda art and pop art because that art is designed to stop you in your tracks, get your attention. Then, once it's got its hold on you, deliver some sort of message. Advertising is the same way.
As like a weird game, I would take the work I was doing for the art show, and I would do stuff for clients that was just like it, just as a weird test to myself of like, I'm gonna do something that I think is awesome. Instead of trying to like please what they were saying, like I'd go and I'd meet with them and I'd listen to everything they were saying, but then I would just take something that was exactly what I was doing in the artwork and give it to them, and that was the stuff they were like, that's awesome. Like that stuff totally flew.
I put a Barry McGee bottle outside, I turn my back for 1 second, I think it's gone. So does that speak to the power of the work? Does that speak to longevity? I don't know. It speaks to connecting. It speaks to like the most rare thing in this world today, and that's connecting. That's why the companies are coming at us. That's why the companies are handing us money. That's what they want. And that's what they can't have from me anymore. I'm done.
I just don't like it, I don't like the person.
I like old advertising that's not trying to get you to do anything anymore. That can't.
It's so.
It doesn't. You're not going to buy like a weird typewriter from the 70s.
The first venues for most of these artists' work was through commercial products. Skateboard designs, t-shirt designs, sticker designs. So it's not that foreign of a concept for these artists to be creating commercial products from their work, because that was actually happening before the art world thing.
I got a lot of emotional fuel out of being successful in that world. And knowing that my stuff is going out on that big of a level, internationally, everywhere, it made me feel valuable. And this is all this interpersonal family shit. Me yelling back at my parents that I'm okay, that I can do this shit, you know what I mean? And once you realize that, yeah, it's a little disenchanting, to say the least. But I realized that. It was like getting back at all the tan, blonde motherfuckers who wouldn't talk to me.
The people who are in the boardrooms and advertising agencies are peers now. They're the guys who are running the creative departments at skateboard companies. They've just grown up. They moved from that, now they're not doing skateboard companies anymore, they're doing Pepsi campaigns.
Okay, you made the game. This is the game. Are you going to decide you're playing the game or not playing the game? The pressure, you can't even believe. going to be huge. It's going to be on every street. It's going to be on every billboard. One of the biggest agencies, one of the biggest clients in the world, and there's me. I found myself multiple in a situation of like, let's work with Jeff McFetridge. So it'd be not in their interest to change, for me to change what I'm doing. Like everything that people say to me, especially when it's working with agencies or larger clients, is like totally do it like Jeff way. They're always testing the limits. I think it's like of my friends, I definitely watch very closely with the testing stuff of how my friends reacted, and I got a really like positive response from people. Like people felt like good about it, and people who were fans were like, "That's so rad, you did that. Like that's so good, man. You got over it." And maybe that's because I've been really, I would hope that it's because I've tried to remain pretty like responsible in what I do.
I have a strong social conscience, and I think about politics in the world. Like this piece here, it is the Palace of Soviets. You can't tell right now, with Lenin on top of it, and it is